and what happened to me isn't gonna pull any heartstrings. I'm sure. And I'll admit it right now. I'm a bad guy. A low-life sleazebag that made money on the outside of the law. I'm here so others can point their finger at me and say, at least I'm not like him. That's been my role in society, and I've come to terms with it. But I'm still a human being. I still have feelings and rights. So what happened to me should never happen to anyone, period. So like I said, I'm an outlaw. And I sell pharmaceuticals that let people forget about their problems for a while. Downside is that the government has been taking over my job lately. You know, what with the marijuana being legalized and all that. Customers are moving towards easier to get and no jail time providing kicks. It's been a rough go for me, economically. I had to diversify my portfolio, so to speak, and turn to gun running on the dark web. Now there's a revenue stream that won't dry up soon. Unmarked handguns and fully automatic weapons with no wait period or background check appeal to a lot of different clientele. I don't know where they go or who is buying them for what purpose. I'm not the morality police, just a guy trying to make a buck. Enough of that though, let's cut to the chase. I got a story to tell and you got time to listen. It all started a few weeks ago. Business had been booming lately. What with all the riots, both sides want to be armed. My usual basic gangs, mafia, and various criminals. And not to mention the whole quarantine. Toilet paper isn't the only thing being stockpiled, I guess. The point I'm trying to make is that I had so much business I couldn't keep track of it all. Or anything else for that matter. So, when earlier this year, a news report came on about a little kid being caught in the crossfire of some baddies, and that the police had traced the weapons being used to having been sold from the dark web. It never even registered on my radar. Now 4 Sundays ago, I had just gotten off the phone with my grandmother. She wasn't doing too well, but I promised her the payment for her treatment was in the mail. When I got an email from a client, a small-time gang called Sun Yeon. And if that doesn't ring a bell, then the Triad. And if you still don't know what I'm talking about, then you don't know the underworld. Google it. They were asking why they got 100 12-inch black dildos instead of the AK-47s they had ordered. Let me tell you, they did not find this funny at all. After the emails came pouring in, and threats were made on my life ranging from big-time gangs to local bubbas wondering where their Bambi Killer 3000 was. I spent all Monday reaching out to my contacts and asking what had happened. And none of them knew. According to them, the shipments went out as ordered. Had to hire a hacker to get into the UPS system, only to find out that the orders had been rerouted to police organizations, and then other orders were sent out in their place. Holy hell, my life is ruined, I said to myself, head in my hands as I tried to puzzle together what had actually happened. Reality hadn't even set in yet, when a voice came through the speakers of my computer.
Having a bad day, are we?
It said.
Funny how these things happen out of nowhere and blindside you.
I looked up and noticed that the light was on, indicating that my webcam was also active. When you've been on the dark web as long as I have, you know the risk you run being hacked. And I thought I had set up enough protection, but there is always someone out there who can get around it, I suppose. Unfazed by this, given my recent circumstances, I sat there and gave the camera the middle finger. I wouldn't have taken you as the stoic type.
Especially after your reputation is in ruins, and your life may now be at stake. Pissed off some high-level buyers, haven't you? They might just come collect your ass for the goods they didn't get.
Yeah, piss off. Wait. It was you, wasn't it? I said, bolting upright. Initially, this was an annoyance, but now this voice has my attention.
What I may or may not have done should be your least concern. You should worry about the 4 Triad members coming around the corner down the street right now.
The voice said. My computer screen switched to a CCTV camera down the street. And I think it was from an ATM. And it showed a group of burly Chinese men coming down the road. I could tell it was by my place from the little bakery across the way. And at first I rushed to grab my things and head out. But then it hit me. Why would this voice ruin my life? and then helped me escape by warning me that someone was after me. Inches from the door, I stopped as I mulled this over. Moments later, there was a knock on my apartment door. Through the peephole, I saw the same 4 men that had minutes ago been down the street. Vibrations went off in my pocket and I reached in and grabbed my phone.
Don't talk, just listen. I know a safe place for you to go. Head out the back window and down the fire escape. I'll tell you where to go after that.
The same voice from the computer speakers told me through the phone. I didn't have a second to think about what was happening, and followed what he told me to do. Down the rusty ladder and into the dirt alleyway I went. As soon as I hit the ground, a lookout on the street spotted me. He yelled up to his companions, then gave chase.
Take the next left, then cross the street and go down the alley on the other side. Hurry up, you're almost there. I can't hold the light much longer.
The voice told me. There was no traffic on the street, so I was able to cross easily. The men were about 10 feet behind me, and as soon as I was on the other side, the stoplight turned green, and the road I just crossed became busy. One of the men seemed to think he could follow after me, and the cars would stop for him. Now he was mistaken and he got hit by one. This caused a huge jam, and the other men were forced to abandon the chase and tend to their unconscious associate.
Keep going down the alley, then take a left and go into the building there.
I did as I was told, and once I turned the corner, ran into the door on my left and slammed it with relief. The room was large and dark, save for a flicker of a computer screen in the middle. There wasn't much I could make out, but the space was seemingly empty. From the white light, I can tell the wall on the right was covered in foam latex texturing. My phone hung up, and there was a soft click of a lock from the door behind me. "Hey, you can't lock me in here," I yelled. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I demanded as I made my way to the computer. "How did the Triads get my address? And who the hell are you? And why would you save me rather than ruining my life?"
I'm the guy who gave the Triads your address. That's who I am.
The voice said from the computer.
I'd save you after ruining your life because revenge is a dish best served cold.
The temperature in the room immediately began to drop, and within minutes my breath was frosty as I huddled on the floor in a feeble attempt to stay warm. It was then I realized I was in some kind of warehouse, and the foam latex was insulation. Breath became labored, my eyes wouldn't focus. I tried to talk, but all that came out was gibberish. Heavy eyelids finally refused to open as I sank into a blackness that I've never experienced before.
Get up. I'm not done with you yet.
The voice said. My head pounded like a bass drum. Lights were now on in the warehouse. The place was even bigger than I had originally thought. Not just a freezer like I had figured. It took up about half a city block and was wall-to-wall white. There was a door opposite of the one I entered, and one on each of the other walls as well. Throbbing pain coursed through my right hand. Looking down, I realized I was shocked that my middle finger had been cut clean off. What the hell? You took my finger?
It hurts when something's taken away from you suddenly, doesn't it? Here are my rules. Listen up. You don't touch the computer, or you die. You do what you're told, or you die. Don't try to escape, or you die. That's it. It's pretty simple. For the next 24 hours, I own you. Now, come here. I got something I want to show you.
Still too weak to stand, I crawled over to the screen like an animal. Pain blinded me every time my hand hit the floor. At least the bleeding had stopped already. Pictures of guns shown on the screen. 3 pistols and an automatic rifle.
Do these look familiar to you?
The man asked. Nah, should they?
You sold them earlier this year. They were used in the shooting that killed 2 drug dealers and an innocent child.
Look, I only facilitate the sales. I don't actually handle the product. I'm more of a middleman. What these people want them for and why they use them is not of my concern. I'm only trying to make a buck.
Then get a job and contribute to society like a normal person. You sad excuse for a human being.
Yeah, well, jobs nowadays barely cover the bills, let alone pay for a grandmother's cancer treatment.
Go cry to a shrink. Point is that these weapons are now being kept at the police station in the evidence locker. I want you to go get them.
I can't do that. I'm a mid-level gun runner. I can't get around security or pass myself off as an officer to get in there. I'd need a uniform, a badge, a key card. It's undoable for me.
I think now would be a good time to take a hard look at your stumpy little finger.
I brought up my hand and looked deep into the wound. Underneath all the blood clots and pulp, I could clearly make out a silver-looking metal.
That container has potassium cyanide in it, and if you don't do as you're told, it ejects you with a lethal dose. I have the button here in my hand.
Pictures of me started to flash across the screen. They were me at the grocery store, the gas station, and even taking a walk near my apartment.
I can see you anywhere in the city, stray off course, and you're dead. There's an earpiece in the basket by the door. Connect your phone to it via the Bluetooth and listen to my instructions. If you do what I say, you'll be fine.
I went to the door and I found everything as he said it would be. Connected the earpiece to my phone and put it in my ear. It was pretty small, and most likely wouldn't be noticed by others. There was also a police uniform in the basket, which I put on as well. He then told me which gas station to go to and that there was a car waiting for me outside. The door opened with a click. Outside was a fully marked police car, gassed and ready to go. Whoever this guy was, he had connections I've never seen before. It was a nerve-wracking 30-minute drive to my destination. My hand hurt like hell the whole time. A constant reminder of the power this person had over me. So, you need these guns back so you don't get in trouble? If that's the case, why didn't you send one of your people in to do it? No reason to torture and harass me like this. I'm just saying, you have all these connections and incredible hacking skills. No need for all this violence, I said.
Turn left here,
he replied, and I drove the rest of the way in silence, save for when he told me directions. Finally got to the gas station, was a little worried my hand would draw suspicion, so I slipped it into my pocket. The added pressure from my pants caused the capsule to shift. I was worried it might go off accidentally, but then I would hit the floor dead in the middle of a cop shop surrounded by officers. Wouldn't that make for a crazy news story at 6?
The evidence locker is in the basement. Cell phone reception will cut out there. You've got 15 minutes to get the guns, and get out, or I inject the cyanide. I don't want you turning yourself in or something. Everything you need to get the guns is in your left back pocket, and I've already submitted all the necessary paperwork in the computer.
The man said, and then he was gone. I got down to the basement, no problem, flashed my badge, and asked to be let in. Everything was going smooth. Went into the back and put 3 guns in the evidence bags and started to walk out.
Hey, you gotta sign those out. You can't just walk out of here with them,
the clerk behind the desk said. Oh yeah, it's been a long day. I must have forgotten, I replied. Gave the man my badge number and signed some paperwork.
Yeah, I thought this was case closed already. Why do you want to look at the evidence again?
The clerk asked. I stumbled for a minute and then came up with something. It's new evidence for a case. The DA wants to look at some stuff. They might reopen it. And I said, hoping that any of that made sense.
Huh. Okay. You must be from Uptown. The paperwork is all in order, but I'll need a detective to sign off on this first.
The clerk got up and went in the back. And I can see him through some glass talking to a man in a suit. He looked at me. Then the other man looked at me. Then the clerk pointed at me. And I don't know what they were saying, but the detective looked suspicious. 14 minutes had already passed and I didn't have time to wait. Without thinking, I grabbed the bags that held the guns through the slot of the plexiglass divider and ran. I can hear the officers' doors fly open as the clerk and detective gave chase. It didn't matter if they even caught me. If I didn't get out of there in a minute, I was a dead man anyways. Took the stairs and ran as fast as I could. My heart was beating out of my chest as I burst through the doors on the first floor. My pursuers followed right behind me. They were yelling and screaming for someone to stop me. One big burly cop stepped out in front of me right before the main doors. I put my shoulder down like I was going to plow through him and I took a step to the left. And then the right. He lunged at me, but I narrowly avoided it. And I was out in the parking lot. Shots rang out as I sprinted to my cruiser and got in. The back window shattered as it was hit by a bullet, but I managed to turn the key and get out of there. Ear-splitting sirens filled the air as a whole slew of cops gave chase.
Did you get the guns?
The voice said over my earpiece. Yeah, you asshole. Hey, you set me up.
I didn't know that you would mess up this bad. I'll take care of it. Just get out of their sight.
I managed to take a few sharp corners and lose them for a second, and then I heard my mysterious man's voice come over the scanner. He was giving them false directions on which way I was going, leading them away from me. He then told me to ditch the car I was in, and then a new vehicle would be waiting, along with a change of clothes. I again did what he said, and got into that old Ford Pinto, and changed my clothes. It took about 20 minutes to get back to the warehouse. The lights were off again, and the computer was the only visible thing.
Put the guns in the back, and then come back over to the computer.
I was told. As I approached, I noticed on the screen that there was a picture of a young boy. I'm not gonna do any kidnapping or off a child. You could just kill me right now, I told him.
No, you won't. You already have. Just kneel down and take a close look at the picture. Surely you recognize this one. He was all over the news a while back.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean. I've never killed a kid before in my life, I said while getting down to look.
No, not directly you haven't. But let me tell you about this one. He was 9 years old and had just gotten a shiny new bike he'd always wanted. He asked his dad if he can go for a ride, and his dad said yes. What kind of world do we live in when a kid can't even ride his own bike? He was only a few blocks from his house when gunfire filled the streets. There was some drug dealers on that block, and it was a drive-by. Do you know where these people got their guns from?
Yeah, let me take a wild guess. Me, I responded. Do you know which guns they were? A voice said from behind me. The touch of cold steel pressed against the back of my head. You killed my son when you sold those men these guns, the same ones I had you retrieve for me. Whoever this man was, he was now right behind me, and from the sound of it, he eagerly anticipated my demise. Alright man, if you're gonna do it, then just do it. Know, however, that I only do this to help my grandma. She'd be dead if it wasn't for me. She's old, and she already lived her life. My son had his whole life ahead of him, and you stole that. The ends don't justify the means. A sharp crack rang in my head when he hit me with the butt of the gun. I was on my back looking up. Tears welled in my eyes from the pain. He pointed the gun right at my face and pulled the trigger. And I flinched in anticipation for my final moments. Yeah, the gun was empty. Death is too good for you, and you will never bring my boy back. You're gonna live your life in fear from now on. One day, maybe never, you may experience the most horrific and painful death you've ever dreamed of. Inside of you is another capsule. A different capsule that won't be detected by any medical procedure or scan. And if I ever feel the need to release it, then you will have a slow, painful, unstoppable death. And you'll just have to wait and see if that day ever comes. He then threw the gun in my face and busted my nose. His footsteps trailed off as he walked out the door. The temperature began to drop, and the faint sounds of police sirens echoed in the distance before I lost consciousness. When I came to, I was in the hospital being treated for hypothermia. The police linked me to the evidence room robbery, and now I'm serving 20 years in a state pen. My hand throbs every time there's a change in weather, and I don't sleep much anymore. I'm always wondering if this day will be my last.